upload all the seminars into the net, so everybody can access to the contents that we are creating across this project. So welcome to this third session of the seminar on virtual reality for students. I'm going to share my screen just before introducing Elena introduces our two guest professors, in order to resume the structure of the seminar for this day and the next 2 days. Past week we had a theoretical session where we introduced it to the students what is the virtual reality, what are the connections of virtual reality and other technologies. Yesterday we have a practical online session with the MetaQuest device. We showed some aspects, as for example the configuration of the glasses, and several applications on design and also on streaming collaborative working. But also we introduced the students on how to create contents for the virtual reality visualization. Today we are going to present a couple of university application cases. One from the Faculty of Education and Philosophy, and another one from the Faculty of Nursery, both of the University of Navarre. Tomorrow we will have another case from Technum, and finally we will have a summary with questions, contributions of all participants, driven by myself. And as an extra an extra option, we have arranged meeting on site at the School of Architecture for those students who want to interact and introduce themselves with the MetaQuest. We have achieved some devices, and we will meet at 10 in the morning at the School of Architecture for introduce the students in this device. I would like to remind that there is a survey located in this web page. That is the web page of the project. You will find the survey form on virtual reality, because we want to study the knowledge of the people on this technology and also on augmented reality. So if you haven't filled the survey, we will appreciate your contribution to this project via the survey. So I'm going to give the floor to Elena Lacella, who is also a researcher from the School of Architecture and the team that is involved in this project, who is going to introduce both the two guest professors that are today with us. Thank you very much, Elena. Thank you very much, Luis Humberto. Thank you very much, Almudena, for your contribution.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Today we are going to take into account with Luis Eudave and Almudena Castillo First of them, Luis Eudavi is a professor at the School of Education and Psychology at the University of Navarre. His teaching revolves around the relationship between the brain and different cognitive processes, as well as the fundamentals of research in educational and psychological processes. In his line of research, Luis seeks to understand how virtual reality can help us evaluate these same cognitive processes, as well as its usefulness as a therapeutic intervention tool. Thank you very much, Luis, for collaborating with this course. Please, you have the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen now. Please let me know if everyone is able to see it.
Yes. Thank you, Luis.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning again, everyone. As Elena just mentioned, my name is Luis Eudavi. I'm a professor at the University of Navarra, concretely at the School of Education and Psychology. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experience using virtual reality in the classroom. Hopefully, after this few minutes of my sharing, you'll be able to grab some tips or information that might be useful for you. So yeah, let's get to it. I wanted to talk a little bit about my background, just so that you don't know where I came from. So I originally studied medicine in Mexico City a few years back. But soon after, I moved into research, which is what I really like and enjoy doing. So I came to Pamplona and did a master's in cognitive neuroscience. And just right after that, I joined the University of Navarra as a PhD student, where I did some more research in cognitive neuroscience, which, as you may have guessed already, is what I mostly enjoy doing research on. And then I did a year as a postdoc, and then I came back at university, finally working as a professor, where I currently am. So I've been there since 2019. I'm an assistant professor. I teach on several subjects, which mostly have to do, as Elena said, with the relationship between the brain and the cognitive processes. And yeah, I'm part of this research lab, which is called Cognitive and Affective Methods in Psychology. And then after that, I've been doing several postdoctoral stays at both in the 2021 and 22 at Erlangen in the engineering faculty, and then last year in Lisboa, also at the Instituto Superior Técnico, which is an engineering university. So I've been hanging around lately too much with engineers, which has broadened my horizons even more if possible. I also wanted to talk to you about this because in almost every stage of this, I've been using virtual reality, which is, I think I've always liked since I was a kid. I remember seeing the first original devices back in the 90s, late 80s, and I thought that was going to be the next big thing when I was a teenager, but as you may have guessed, it never came to be until now. So I had to wait a few more years until we had this, and just when I started my PhD, we had the first usable public used virtual reality headsets, so I got to grab my hands onto them. Okay, so these are a few examples of what I've been doing this research on. So during my PhD, one of my side projects was to explore how we react when we have to maneuver our car in emergency situations. So this on the left, you see, is me, which is connected to a bunch of cables in a very crafty way. But there, what I'm registering are my brain activity and heart activity and my stress levels, so that we know what happens when you are confronted to an emergency situation, like the one you can see on the right, when a car crosses right in front of you, or a person crosses in the middle of the road, and you have to respond. So this is one of my side projects in my PhD. This is one of the current projects I have at the university. So I'm exploring how we navigate in 3D complex environments. So I created this 3D maze based on other research that has already been done. And I have my volunteers, my participants, to go through the maze and see if they can get out of it. We've done something similar in Germany where I did this, but not with the person sitting down, but standing up and walking to the direction. So we had to make use of physical space and bring it to virtual reality so that we can correlate the movement that happens in physical reality with virtual reality, which was quite interesting. And we also tried to replicate some research that had been before in this area. And this is what I worked on Lisboa this year. So what we basically did was try to bring up old ways of evaluating attention, like the ones you have on the right, where you have to find a stimulus, in this case, a T. So let's see if you can all find it, which has traditionally been done in computer screens, or just in a piece of paper. And we are just porting this into virtual reality because in the case of visual attention, we think that it can give us more information, or at least a little bit more details that can be useful in these explorations. So as you can see, I like working with VR. I've been doing it for a few years, and it's been on the center of my research line, which is very nice, and I really enjoy it. But I hadn't found a way yet to put it in my teaching also, because most of the time I spend it teaching, as most of us professors do, until a couple of years ago when I got the opportunity to do something to create a new subject, which had a few requirements. It had to be an optional subject. It had to be taught to second and third year students from different disciplines, so not just education and psychology, but it had to include people from architecture, for example, from medicine, from biology. And it also had to include people from home, from the University of Navarra, and also students coming from other universities. So it had to be in English. So, so this was the perfect excuse to come up with my newest subject, which is called Virtual Reality in the Neuroscience, where I basically just join what I normally do in my research, so that I can talk a little bit about it on the classroom. So to talk to you a little bit of what I do using virtual reality in this subject, I will take the description of this subject, and which I have divided like in three parts. So the first, which I call the pitch, it says, virtual reality is trending. This not so new technology creates computer-generated scenes that aim to create a real-world experience. This ability to simulate real-life situations opens up a world of possibilities, especially when it comes to research. So I think that with this, I wanted to portray the idea that virtual reality is trendy, is a new thing going on. I don't know if you are aware, but for example, the Apple Vision Pro headset, which is going to be the first one from Apple, is going to be released this Friday. So everyone in the field is super excited because it's supposed to be like very nice. So this is basically where we are at. So we are going to have this the Apple very powerful device, and the ones from Meta, previously Facebook, that you might be already aware about, the Quest 2 or the Quest 3. So with this, I just wanted to justify that there's a trend going on with this. So I don't know if you know this website, which is Google Trends, where you can see what people are looking on the internet. And if you go and search Vision Pro, you will see that no one was looking that until a few months ago when it was announced. And it had a huge peak in traffic, in internet traffic. But when we compare it to the other headset that we have, which is MetaQuest, well, we can see that it's more or less on the same level. But for example, virtual reality has been on the field for a longer time, basically since the beginning of 2017, which was when the first consumer-grade virtual reality headset were released. So this was the Oculus, the first one, I forgot the name, the development kit #1, which was already 7 years ago. So since then, it has been already, as you can see in this yellow line, quite popular term that in order to be able to compare it, if we put Spain over there, so we can see that the term Spain is just as popular as virtual reality. So it's on there, right? People are talking about it, so it's trendy and it's useful, and it's been proven to be working with a lot of fields, not just entertaining or gaming, as we may know it. So this was my justification, right, to talk about this and give a subject about virtual reality. And what are we going to do in this subject? So in this second paragraph, which I titled the contents, I explain this a little bit. So I say that in these research-oriented courses, students will learn the basics the basic principles of virtual reality. So this is like the first thing, right? So if we're going to talk about virtual reality subjects, we need to know what it is about. So in these VR basics, I explain them the basic idea of how a virtual reality headset work and the idea, right? So there's a device that it's inputting information on the subject, for example, head position, right? So that we know where people is looking. And then the whole device is producing new images, new sound that render and correlate this information to project something that makes you feel that you are actually in there. And this has to do with a technological property that it's called immersion, which is the capability of such device, the headset, to fool you, to make you fall into the illusion that you are in that virtual magical space, right? So for that, most headsets only use auditory and visual stimuli, but others also have tactile or smell stimuli to fool you even deeper into the illusion. And also, besides talking about the basic functioning of a virtual reality headset, we also talk about what makes it possible for us to fall into the illusion, into the game of the virtual reality, which are the three VR illusions, which is place, the possibility, and the embodiment illusion. So that in the end, if you fall into this illusion, it makes you feel like it's real, right? And if you have used virtual reality, you may have had this feeling, right? That it's not the same like just staring at a computer screen. There's something going on that fools us a little bit and makes us think that, okay, yeah, it kind of looks like I'm somewhere in the field or in a forest and I'm walking by myself, right? It makes you feel it a little bit more real. So this goes on in these VR basics. And then besides talking about that, we also talk about how it is becoming a fundamental tool when examining how our brain works. So as I said before, we aren't having just used it for entertainment purposes. It's begun to be used as a research tool more and more with the upcoming years, and more with the neuroscience and brain sciences in general. So in order to understand this, I do a very basic introduction of how the nervous system works, what are the parts, how it works, so that we can more or less understand how we are finally falling into these illusions that I just mentioned before, right? How our brain works and what happens with our brain in order to make us feel that the virtual reality that we are seeing is actually kind of real. So we talk about that, and also the bad things, which is the last frontier in virtual reality that we have to solve, which is cyber sickness. So it's a problem, it's a common problem with a lot of experiences that involve movement, that people feel a little bit sick. So this is something that technology hasn't solved yet, and I also talk about this because it's a big challenge that we have to think about whenever we use virtual reality. And then, as I said, this is not just a neuroscience virtual reality course, but it's also kind of oriented into research. So I also talk about what involves doing an experiment. So again, this is in a very basic level because I'm teaching this to second or third year students that might be just curious about what's going on with virtual reality and neuroscience. So I don't go very heavy into this, but I like to at least have this clear. So we touch some very basic terms like what an hypothesis are, what are conditions. There are experimental and control conditions. What happens specifically in the case of virtual reality? What do you have to do when you are doing an experiment with virtual reality? So we talk about these very common terms in the experimental research kind of field, so that we are all on the same level and that we can come up with the next thing. So So all of this has to be coming from various disciplines, including like the ones we have here: economics, medicine, psychology, and education. And this is because I have students from many areas taking this course. So I have students from I have had students from economics, biology, psychology, education, medicine, pharmacology, and so I have to more or less adapt the material so I can get something out of each of these fields, but I have to kind of adapt it so that it remains interesting for everyone, or that everyone can take some benefit out of this course. So yeah, so it has to have like this very diverse perspective when thinking about this course. And then what are the actual activities that I do? So this is the framework, right? But what are the actual activities that we do in this course? So we do some hands-on sessions where we allow the students experience virtual reality in the context of research studies and explore use cases of virtual reality as a tool for conducting scientific research. This means that I have looked for experiments, simple experiments that have used virtual reality in order to solve straightforward questions, so that it's not very hard to understand, but still fun to read about and learn about. So what I do is, in this activity, which are the paper to VR assignments, we all gather and we read a research paper that has to do with virtual reality and so on a specific subject. And then after that, we do a group-based activity where we have to answer some questions related to the paper. So my students have to do this first individually and then as a group, and then we have to compare all answers and see if we all got it right. So what I wanted with this activity was for them to know a little bit about these research tactics that I taught them before, and so that they could be able to extract what is valuable information from these papers, and also learning what is happening in virtual reality. So we do these activities. The first one is guided by me, and then we do 3 more. And then these 4 assignments are handpicked, because in the end, there is a demo day where my students get to experience in virtual reality each and every one of these experiments, right? So these are experiments that I have the actual virtual program, the virtual application, where they can then explore it in this demo day. So I have some pictures. So for example, here, the research paper had to do something with pro-social behavior, where they have to fly like Superman and try to help a lost kid that was in the city. So they had to learn how to fly over the city in virtual reality. So it looked something like this, right? So they learned that moving their arms in some way made them go down or up or faster or slower. So they learn how to fly, and then they have to look on the city for this lost kid. And this is another experiment about climate change, where they get to explore the bottom of the ocean and do some activities. And yeah, I was lucky because this semester I had the university photographer take us some pictures, some nice pictures, so that I can show them to you in this class. So basically, this is what's going on the demo day. So we have everyone joining in groups. I have several virtual reality headsets, so everyone is taking turns and experiencing all these experiments that they had already read about. So it's not new for them. They already know what's going on and what they have to do. So they are like kind of applying in practice what they have learned about in the previous weeks by reading the articles. So yeah, these are just a few pictures of what my students doing there. And this year, I did something different. Besides having these assignments and the demo day, I threw in a new activity that I called the experiment day, where I designed a very simple experiment, but that we all had to participate in so that we could extract some information and then see if something happened. So in this case, I don't know if I'm going to repeat it, but this year it worked well. I had my students do an empathy questionnaire, a very common empathy questionnaire, to see how empathetic they were generally in their daily lives. And then I had them go through 2 situations. I have one group just watch empathy-related video on YouTube, and then I had the other group go through a scenario in virtual reality that had to do with empathy. And then I would do the same task again to see if empathy had changed after these experiences, right? So as you can see, it's super simple. It's not rigorous or super scientific at all, but it's just a very simple exercise for my students to see how it kind of works, right? So you do a first evaluation, you do some exposition to an experiment and control condition, and then you do the same examination again and see if something changed, right? Here in this example, our hypothesis was that virtual reality, being what it is, it's going to make a deeper impact in our empathy scales. So this year, this is what I had. So I had to look for a bigger classroom so that we could organize all the activities all at once. So here these were the virtual reality group where they're going through this virtual reality experience where they had to live like African-American boy throughout his life. So here they had to experience a lot of discriminative experiences, like many African Americans in the US experience, right? So they had to live through it. So they felt like they were this kid. They felt like they were this teenager that was being arbitrarily stopped by the police, and they had to kneel down. They had to follow the instructions of the policeman. It's a little bit scary. So I don't know, it's a very involving activity. So that was the idea of why I wanted to use this and see what happened with empathy. So it was a very engaging activity. So for example, here in the back, you see one of my students that it's raising her arms because the police told her to raise her arms. So people get actually involved with the activity. And it's something that you don't do actually when you're watching just a video, right? So this is like the power of virtual reality. It makes you feel like you are actually in there and you get involved with the experience. And in the case of this year's experience, we got some nice results because actually the people who went through the virtual reality experience showed more empathy after the exposition to the virtual reality experience, which was, I actually wasn't expecting it because my sample size was super small. I mean, I had only 22 students, but still we had this significant effect. And I mean, it was nice to see and for them to see also that it actually kind of worked. So I was pleasantly surprised with it. So we do this, we explore these use cases of virtual reality as a tool for conducting scientific research. And we also have another session for the creation of real world applications. So for this, I don't know if you know Unity 3D, maybe the architecture students will know about it. So Unity 3D is a game engine that we basically, well, it's mostly used to build 3D experiences, but it can be used to do anything that it's 3D, right? So in virtual reality is one of the platforms that is used to create all these kind of scenarios in virtual reality. So I make a very simple exercise where they get to practice with Unity. I created a scene where they just get to manipulate following instructions that I give them beforehand. So it's all very simple, but it's just a first exposure for them, at least to know what it is and how it works, and for them to also lose the fear because it kind of looks like a thing that only engineers do, right? That it's very hard to manipulate. But in the end, I think that they live with this impression that it's not as difficult, and that might be useful for them in the future. So this is what happens during those sessions. So I'm not able to work with many computers because I have to have computers attached to the virtual reality headsets. And so I have groups of 3 or 4 people that work on the same project at the same time. So each take a role. So for example, we have a developer who is working on the game engine, manipulating the things, and then the tester who is actually thinking if things are working all right or not. And then they take turns and then change roles, and they get to learn and experience each and every of these roles. And finally, this is how is evaluated in the end, this subject. I have my students develop their own hypothetical VR research study. So taking everything into account, everything that they have learned, they have experienced in the demo day, in the experiment day, in this create your own program day, I have them come up with an experiment that they would do in their own fields, right? So if I have students from biology, I have them think of something that could be related to biology, if they come from medicine, if it's from economics. And I have some very nice presentations where my students have thought of nice ways to explore something, a problem that is specific to their fields, and a new solution. They have come with a new solution using virtual reality in this case. So these are just some of the presentations that have worked and have been quite successful. And this is basically what I do. I also wanted to share some of the challenges and difficulties, because this has been very fun, and I think my students have enjoyed it, at least these past 2 years, but it hasn't been all that smooth or all that easy, and I wanted also to share this with you in case you are thinking of what might be involved whenever you are trying to teach with using virtual reality. So I divided these challenges and difficulties in two, non-technical and technical challenges. So in the non-technical challenges, one that I had, but this one might be very specific in my use case, was the diversity. So I said that I had students coming from all areas and all fields. And this is nice because you can bring in a lot of point of views and new ideas, but it also is difficult for me to think what would be best for everyone, right? So I can only use so many assignments all over the course, so I cannot maybe throw in something that is super interesting to everyone. So I have to really come up with something that it's at least not boring to some of my students. So that has been proven a challenge, but I think that so far it's been doing fine. This is going to sound a little bit silly, but the number of students has been a problem. Understand me, it has been a problem for me because 2 years ago I only had 9 students, which was nice to start with, but this year I had 23. And that has proven a challenge because I had to ask for more materials, and I had to do the installations and the preparations for even more headsets and try to coordinate to have them all working at the same time. And it's very nice and very pleasing that I have more students interested in this, but it has been also very difficult and time consuming because it's not the same preparing materials for 9 people than to 23. But I'm not complaining too much. Also, a thing that I've found, and I didn't expect when I started this journey, was that there's not many teaching resources on this, right? So there aren't many people who have worked on this specifically, or that have used virtual reality in their day-to-day classes, at least at this level. So I basically had to come up with everything, right? I could look for inspiration in other areas that are not necessarily teaching related, but there are not many. So I had to become very creative, and I'm not very creative, so that was a challenge for me. So those were these non-technical challenges. So as you can see, they are not critical, but have proven a little bit difficult. And then on the technical side, there are several. So as I mentioned before, the VR setup is time consuming, so it's not the same to do it for one device than for 11 or 10 devices. So you have to prepare everything in advance, and even you have to do that in the same day so that I don't know, it doesn't restart randomly, or it doesn't do anything weird. So you have to be very aware and very attentive of everything that's going on there. Also, something that I have found is that in case of technical difficulties, there's almost no one in the university that can help me, because IT in our university doesn't work with virtual reality, obviously. So if I have problems, I have to solve them myself. And I had gone through a few situations where I had to try and look in the internet, ask other people outside the university to see how I could solve some specific problem, because I didn't have in-home help with this. But I think this is relatable to other people who had used virtual reality. And also something that I experience is that something always goes wrong, right? You can prepare everything and have it perfect and charge your batteries and have everything set up, but there's also something that is going to go wrong. The people are going to wear the headsets, and then they're going to say that they're not seeing anything, that they are getting dizzy, that there's something that it's going to go always wrong. So you have to be very aware and patient, and also ready to come up with solutions in that very time. Look, then a very specific problem that I found with standalone VR, which means when you use the headset and not connected to the PC, is that you have to have this, to follow this whole process of updating the headset, especially when you are using many. You have to update all of them, install the same application, the same version of the application in all of them, calibrate if you're using eye tracking, do the testing beforehand to see if it actually works, have everything charged. So these are very easy tasks, but when you might multiply that by 10, it gets tedious a little bit. So this was my headset for the last class I had. So I had to prepare everything and have all the applications updated and ready for 7 headsets. So, I mean, it's difficult. I stayed up until very late that night, just before the class. And something that I also experienced is that if you are working with more than 5 headsets at the same time, it's wise to ask for help, because if you are trying to help someone, then there's going to be someone that will have problems, but he or she will have to wait. So it's better if you have someone that can also aid you in that time, so that you don't delay more the activity that you are doing, especially in the context of a class that you have to finish in 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. So it's wise that I didn't do it before, to seek help. And finally, in the case of PC VR, which are the virtual reality headset that you connect to the internet, which I use very much because I need to control what I'm doing from the computer, so I need to connect it. So there's something that you need to have, and that is a very powerful computer. You have to have a computer with a high-end graphics card. And in the case of my university, there are no university computers that have them, so we have to buy them specifically for this. So you have to be prepared to that, to invest a lot of money into this. And also something that I found out this year was that you cannot use wireless setups. That means connecting the virtual reality headset with the computer via Wi-Fi, more than 2 at the same place, because there's going to be a lot of interference and it's not going to work. So if you are planning to do with 2 or more people in this kind of a situation, you have to set them very far away. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And I found out about that this year, and I had to improvise in the moment to solve this problem during a class. And that's basically it. So I hope you got to get a gist of my experience using virtual reality. Overall, it has been very nice, and I think students have had a good time. And I also think they have learned about it. So it's a win-win for all of us. And yeah, I'm open to any questions. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Luis. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you very much, Luis. Sorry. Thank you for your presentation and for telling us how the application of the virtual reality in the teaching is the reality, no? The challenge, the difficulties, and the experience that you have. Thank you very much. Then we have the pleasure to take into account with Almudena Castillo, who is a neonatal nursing specialist, where she has developed the majority of her clinical career for 10 years. In 2020, she became part of the practical teaching unit team at the nursing faculty, where she is a clinical simulation professor and mentor for clinical practice students. Recently, she has obtained a master's degree in simulation methodology applied to the training of health and social science professionals. Thank you, Almudena, for participating in this course, and you have the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena, for giving me the opportunity to be here today. I'm also here with Lucia Gili, who is a student on her third nursing year degree, who participated in our pilot study last year. After my presentation, we will have just a little chat where she will describe her own experience in the virtual reality also. So I'm going to share my screen. So are you able to see the presentation?
Yes.
Wait. Oops. Let's see where I can move this here. Okay. So so as Elena said, I'm one of the member of the simulation lab in the nursing faculty, and today I'm going to share with you the design, implementation, and evaluation of the virtual reality in the nursing curriculum. So, as you may know, virtual reality is a learner-centered educational approach, and the learner feels in control of the interactive learning process, facilitating active and critical learning. Also, it gives them the opportunity to perform a task as many times as they need, or they would like. That other kind of simulators, they don't give us that opportunity to the lack of material and or human resources. So Generation Z enjoys learning through observation and practice, expecting immediate and continuous feedback on the activity they are performing. Oops. So in nursing students, the evidence suggests that VR improves knowledge, clinical reasoning, and clinical skills, and also enhance satisfaction with their learning experience. So why would you decide to do this study in partial ulcer? Basically, because there are like chronic booms who has a huge impact on the daily life or the patient who suffer with that partial ulcer, and also it has a huge economic cost for the hospitals. That's why the aim of our research was to design and implement and evaluate the effectiveness of an immersive virtual reality teaching activity for PU care and compare it to the traditional way of teaching. So we designed the intervention study. It was a randomized controlled trial with a convenient sample of 93 undergraduate nursing students from the University of Navarra. They were students from the second nursing year degree who have never had any kind of experience looking after patients or with partial ulcer. After the randomization, we obtained the intervention group with 47 students and the control group with the 46 students. And the study was conducted from March to May 2022. So we studied 4 variables, 2 primary one and 2 secondary. So the primary one, they were knowledge and skills. For the knowledge, to measure the knowledge, we used the partial ulcer knowledge assessment tool, PCAP 2.0. And for the skills, to measure the skills, we used 10-item rubric through individualized simulation-based experience with a standardized patient. For those of you who are not familiar with the simulation, basically standardized patient means that we hire actors who have a pathology, so they come here to the nursing clinic, and the student need to assess the condition of the patient and just provide the care they need for that condition. And for the second variables, for satisfaction and usability, we use the same tool to assess then the system usability scale scores. So before doing the immersive virtual reality and the traditional way of teaching, we share with the student the same training material. It was a documentation about partial ulcer for self-learning, and then the intervention, it was an immersive virtual reality. The team, we designed along with the engineers 6 cases, and the student, they need to come here to the nursing lab where the virtual reality glasses, we have the Oculus Quest 2. They did these 6 cases through 3 sessions that more or less they lasted around 150 minutes versus the traditional way of teaching where we have a group of 8 students who come to the nursing lab for an hour, and they do they care in this case of partial ulcer in task trainer. We have a nurse lecturer who is in the class with them solving any kind of question they have or helping them to developing the task. So I'm going to share with you a little video where you can see a little bit about like this virtual environment. You will see the room where is the patient, and the treatment room where the student, they need to go and pick up all the equipment they need to use to treat this person's ulcer. And also through the whole experience, they have available a tablet on the hand where they have all the tools, all the scale they need to assess the patient, and they have all the medical record of these patients. So let's see, it's here. So, oh, sorry. In the study protocol, after the randomization, so you can see that we did the same pre-test and post-test in both groups. So all the participants signed an informed consent form before joining this study. They were free to quit anytime without any repercussion. Obviously, we got the approval from the ethics committee of the research from the university. So in the statistical analysis among the two types of methods, the virtual and traditional, higher values were observed in the 4 evaluated variables for virtual reality. And additionally, it is observed how the satisfaction and usability variable show significant correlation between them and inversely against knowledge gain. Situation that does not occur in the virtual reality group, where only correlation is found between the weighted score of satisfaction and usability. So from the covariance analysis, it was found that the teaching methodology had an impact on the gain of the skill, on satisfaction with the methodology, and on usability. That the covariates of skill and knowledge were shown to be related in all the responsible variables, and that this effect varies for each teaching methodology when the response variable is satisfaction. So for the gain on knowledge, both methods have the same performance regardless of the initial level, as you can see here. For the gain in skill, teaching with IBR obtained the highest values. This response was similar of its previous level of skills. Regarding the satisfaction and usability, satisfaction varied depending on the initial level of knowledge. Higher values of usability were found in the IBR group also, and this behavior was the same at all the initial levels of knowledge. So we have some limitation and challenge that I would like to share with you. So basically, our findings may not be directly extrapolated to other populations. That's why we need further research in this file. Also, maintaining the student engagement with a project, it was a little bit difficult sometimes because they need to come 3 times to the nursing lab, and they have like a really tight schedule, like, you know, they have clinical placement in the morning or like class to attend in the evening. So it was difficult, you know, to find the gap where they could come and do this experience of the virtual reality. Also, we have 50% of our students experience some degree of dizziness during the intervention. Another problem that we have, it was the battery life. You know, the classes sometimes they were running out of battery, because obviously when you have like different groups coming like through the day, so obviously the device just run out of battery. So consistent with the evidence found, we suggest that OER can improve more effectively procedural skill. It is highlighted at the present research that the gain in knowledge and skill is significantly greater to the extent that the present lower initial marks. In other words, the improvement gap that is higher in those learners of Generation Z with low initial qualification. That's what we found out in our research. These are the reference, some of the reference that we have used it, and that's all that I wanted to share with you. I don't know if you have any question, or if not, I'm happy to go with Lucia through her personal experience in this experience. No? Okay, great. So Lucia, so if you can explain to them a little bit of what did you do in this virtual reality experience?
A little bit. So first of all, we were placed in a hospital, and you would have the case of the patient, a little description, the patient's name, and you would have the background, the medical history. You would read that, and then based on that, you would evaluate the patient with the Braden scale to measure the risk that this patient had for pressure ulcers. And then you would grab your materials to do the cure. So you would go to the material room and grab all the materials you needed, and it would give you right away like the feedback. If you grab the wrong material, it would correct you, so you have to do it again. And then you would go back to the patient's room, obviously introduce yourself, talk to the patient as well. It was not just like the technical nursing skills, but also like the non-technical, which was talking to the patient and all that. And then it would guide you also all the steps of that you needed to do for the cure. So like first cleaning the wound, then applying the other materials that you needed. And that's pretty much it. And then it would ask you at the end some other questions, and yeah.
Okay, so did you have any previous experience in the virtual reality? Have you used it before, or?
No, I had never used virtual reality. This was pretty much the first time.
And how did you find it? Do you think it was easy for you, or?
I think it was easy because it guided you like every step of the way, and it would correct you. It would give you the feedback. And it was pretty like engaging and fun because you got to see everything visually, and also repeat the things that you did wrong. So I guess like the skills and everything stayed better.
Okay. So do you think the virtual reality adapt to your learning, like way of learning, or to your needs of learning?
Yes, I think personally, I'm a very visual learner, and I need to repeat something like many times for them to like stay in my head. So I think it really helped me.
So did you find it that it was easy for you to use them, and like about the time that you invest in this task? Do you feel like it saves time, like when you're learning, or what do you think?
I think it does save time because at the end of the day, it guided you every step, and I guess I don't know. I feel like it did save time in the learning experience.
Okay, so would you recommend to another friend in another degrees, or?
Yes, I would probably definitely recommend it to another friend.
What did you take from this experience, like that you were able to implement in your clinical daily placement routine?
I would say it definitely helped me like organize your care plan, because since the beginning you evaluated the patient, grabbed your material, then went to the patient's room. Like it gave you a sense of how to do things in the daily work and the practices,
which is for us as nurses, it's like really important.
Very important.
Like, you know, to have that
care plan, because it saves time, it saves energy, everything.
Yeah. Well, that's all that we want to share with you. I don't know if you have any question or anything that you would like to ask us.
Yes, hello, Almudena, and hello. Thank you very much for your participation. We are. I'm sure that in a few years the virtual reality is going to become a very powerful tool in education and in training and learning. I think it is. We are just starting now. And we are not more than 5 years using this this technology massively, and in universities. But I would like to appreciate your opinion as a student or as teachers of the things that may need to be improved in the next years with in virtual reality, as for example, the meta or the devices are too heavy, or I feel sick when I use the glasses more than 30 minutes, as Luis said, and I think the graphics are poor and need to be improved. I would like to create my own programs, my own, not depending on third persons of programmers to create my my space. What do you think about this?
What do you think?
Well, personally, after doing the virtual reality, after you did feel like dizzy and like it kind of exhausts, like it's exhausting because it's something new. It takes time to adapt and I don't know, adapt to everything. So I feel like maybe, I don't know, maybe taking breaks or preparing before, I don't know, that's something.
From my point of view, I think the main, one of the challenges that we have also is this, obviously we have to work with the engineer team who are not based in the university. We don't have that resource. So we have to invest on that. And, you know, to work with them. It was really easy with this company, but the problem is like every time that we want to do something, to implement something new and do some improvement, so we have to hire that company again in order for them to make some improvement, or if we want to do like a different virtual reality environment. So we don't have that. So we would like to, like, you know, in the future, we are thinking to use more, because you know, we have a very small nursing lab, and we have more and more students coming to the degree. Sometimes we don't have, like, for example, we don't have many like pediatrics mannequin. So I would like to develop a little bit more in that aspect. But obviously, you know, that has a cost also. So yeah, that's the main thing that we.
I think Luis wants to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Almudena, a question about the project, but before, I think you also raised an important problem that we do have, which is this ability to create our own spaces and environments, right? So yeah, I build myself my environments, but I'm not an engineer, so I cannot do them as nice as the one that you just showed us. So it's definitely a challenge. But what I've been seeing for this past year is that, for example, artificial intelligence is going to help us a lot with that. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can do now that you couldn't do a couple of years before, that you can ask for ChatGPT or even Unity, the platform that we use to develop. They have their own artificial intelligence where you can say that build a room with a bed in the middle, and it gives you the whole code you don't have to do anything. So I think artificial intelligence is going to help us a lot with that, especially for us, people who are not engineers or at least experts in developing programs in 3D. But yeah, it's closing the gap a little bit, but you are right. It's a problem for us who are not very keen on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if there are no more questions, I could finish this session. Thank you very much for your participation. Tomorrow we will have another session with the case study from Tecnum, and on next Thursday, we will have on-site session with Meta. You are all invited from the university. Welcome to the School of Architecture, where we will be waiting for you from 10 in the morning. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luis and Almudena, for collaborating with this project and your participation and tell us your experience with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there is some hand up.
No, I think they
No,
wanted
no.
to.
It's been a mistake. Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye. Have a good day.
Elena, entonces nos vemos